The release of Michael has set Hollywood off, with celebrities now speaking out and challenging the film's version of the King of Pop's life. Since its April 2026 premiere, the biopic has split the industry. While the film paints a polished story, voices like Paris Jackson are calling it misleading. Stay with me because I'll point you to the original script, which was reportedly scrapped just weeks before filming after a legal threat that could have exposed a deeper industry cover-up. Michael Joseph Jackson was born on August 29, 1958, in Gary, Indiana. By the time most children are learning to read, Michael was already a working entertainer. By the early 1960s, the older brothers, Jackie, Tito, and Jermaine, had begun performing around the city. By 1964, Michael and Marlon had joined in, a musical prodigy. Michael's singing and dancing talents were mature beyond his years, and he soon became the dominant voice and focus of the Jackson Five. The argument Jackson made throughout his life for his close relationship with children was that he never got a proper childhood due to the abuse of his father, Joe Jackson, and his position within the Jackson Five. Joe Jackson ran the group with iron discipline. Rehearsals were long, punishment was physical, and the schedule left no room for the normal experiences of a young boy. Playing outside, birthday parties, schoolyard friendships. Michael would talk about this for the rest of his life. He became a solo artist and went on to break every conceivable record in the music industry. At the 26th Annual Grammy Awards on February 28, 1984, Jackson took home a record-breaking 8 trophies off the strength of Thriller, the most Grammys won by a single artist in one night. That historic haul included wins for Record of the Year, Album of the Year, and Producer of the Year, which Jackson shared with Thriller co-producer Quincy Jones. The New York Times wrote, "In the world of pop music, there is Michael Jackson and there is everybody else." He was not simply a musician. Michael industrialized the package, fusing music, dance, style, and branding. His template guides Beyoncé and Taylor Swift and will likely inform every aspiring cross-genre juggernaut for generations. But for all of this, Jackson built something else alongside the music: a world. Neverland Ranch, a sprawling estate in Los Olivos, California, was modeled after a theme park. It had rides, a zoo, a movie theater, and guest rooms that hosted a rotating cast of children and their families. Jackson presented it as the childhood he never had. He said he was giving other children what had been taken from him by his father's ambition. And for years, people believed that. Then, in 1993, everything changed. Evan Chandler, a dentist and screenwriter based in Los Angeles, accused Michael Jackson of sexually abusing his 13-year-old son, Jordan Chandler. Jackson had befriended Jordan after renting a vehicle from Jordan's stepfather. Though Evan initially encouraged the friendship, he confronted his ex-wife, who had custody of Jordan, with suspicions that the relationship was inappropriate. Chandler demanded money from Jackson, threatening to go to a criminal court, but no agreement was reached. After Jordan told a psychiatrist that Jackson had molested him, the Los Angeles Police Department began a criminal investigation. The investigation found no physical evidence against Jackson. In August 1993, as the second leg of Jackson's Dangerous World Tour began, news of the allegations broke and received worldwide media attention. The story consumed the globe. According to Consequence of Sound, in 1993, Jackson was the most popular singer in the world. The tabloid press erupted. 2 weeks after the allegations were reported, the headline "Michael Jackson, the curtain closes" reflected the attitude of most tabloid media. The New York Post ran the headline "Peter Pan or Pervert." On January 25, 1994, the civil lawsuit was settled out of court between Jackson and the Chandler family. The total amount paid to the Chandlers was $15,331,250. By the end of the investigation period, multiple grand juries had been called. However, jurors remarked that no damaging evidence was heard against Jackson. No criminal charges were ever filed. Jackson maintained his innocence. His supporters said the settlement was a pragmatic business decision, not an admission of guilt. His critics said innocent men do not pay millions of dollars. That debate has never stopped. A decade later, the allegations returned. In 2003, the documentary Living with Michael Jackson showed Jackson holding hands with Arvizo and defending his practice of sharing his bed with children, triggering an investigation. Jackson was indicted on 4 counts of molesting a minor, 4 counts of intoxicating a minor to molest him, 1 count of attempted child molestation. one count of conspiring to hold the Arvizo family captive and conspiring to commit extortion and child abduction. This was no longer a civil matter. This was a criminal trial. The state of California versus Michael Joseph Jackson. The trial was held in Santa Barbara County Superior Court in Santa Maria, California. Jackson was charged with molesting Gavin Arvizo, who was 13 years old at the time of the alleged abuse, at his Neverland Ranch estate. The jury selection began on January 31, 2005. Gavin and his brother testified that Jackson had given them alcohol, showed them pornography, masturbated before them, and made sexual advances. The defense characterized the witnesses for the prosecution as disgruntled ex-employees, or individuals seeking to exploit Jackson for money. Witnesses for the defense included testimony from celebrities including former child actor Macaulay Culkin and comedian Chris Tucker. This is where celebrities entered the picture, not as commentators on the sidelines, but as sworn witnesses inside a courtroom. Macaulay Culkin testified that he had shared a bed with Jackson on a dozen or more times, between the ages of 9 and 14, but had never been molested and had never seen Jackson act improperly, contrary to many of the prosecution's witness testimonies. He said that his parents had known he was in Jackson's bedroom and never saw it as an issue. He described shock at hearing allegations that Jackson had molested him and dismissed them as absolutely ridiculous. Culkin said they had bonded over their shared experience of child stardom. Wade Robson testified as Jackson's first defense witness that he had slept in Jackson's bedroom several times but had never been molested. Robson recalled his first visit at Neverland Ranch in 1989 and had slept in Jackson's bedroom on all but 3 or 4 of his 20 or so visits. Chris Tucker also testified for the defense. Corey Feldman, a man who was himself a victim of childhood sexual abuse in Hollywood, publicly defended Jackson as well. While Culkin has been a longtime defender of Jackson, Feldman's testimony is all the more compelling considering that he describes himself as a survivor of sexual abuse, having claimed to have been molested by a man who worked with his father. Furthermore, he's also accused multiple former agents and a club owner of sexually abusing him as well, making his defense of Jackson particularly significant. On June 13, 2005, Jackson was acquitted on all counts. FBI files on Jackson, released in 2009, revealed the FBI's role in the 2005 trial and the 1993 allegations, and showed that the FBI found no evidence of criminal conduct on Jackson's behalf. For Jackson's supporters, the acquittal was vindication. For his critics, it was a celebrity escaping justice. But the trial hollowed Jackson out. After the trial, Jackson became reclusive. In June 2005, he moved to Bahrain as a guest of Sheikh Abdullah. He would never set foot inside Neverland again. Jackson died on June 25, 2009, from acute propofol intoxication. He was 50 years old. The world mourned. Celebrities poured out tributes. Cher shared many memories of Jackson, calling in to Larry King Live on CNN and recalling him as a great teenager, optimistic and adorable. Madonna said, "I can't stop crying over the sad news. I have always admired Michael Jackson. The world has lost one of the greats, but his music will live on forever." Corey Feldman posted a statement mourning his old friend, calling him the greatest entertainer in the history of mankind, and saying Jackson was a role model, someone to cry to when my childhood was unbearable, a brother, a dear friend. Elizabeth Taylor was reportedly too devastated to issue a statement, according to her representative. But 4 years after Jackson was placed in the ground, the narrative shifted violently. In 2013, Wade Robson, the same man who had testified under oath that Jackson never touched him, reversed his position and filed a civil lawsuit against Jackson's estate, claiming to have been abused by Michael in the 1990s, and that his earlier statement was due to being manipulated and brainwashed by the artist. James Safechuck soon joined Robson, as hearing his story helped him realize that he had been abused as well. In January 2019, the documentary Leaving Neverland premiered at the Sundance Film Festival. Director Dan Reed described it as a study of the psychology of child sexual abuse told through 2 ordinary families. In the film, Wade Robson and James Safechuck allege that Jackson sexually abused them when they were children. Safechuck from 1988 to 1992, and Robson from 1990 to 1996. They give graphic descriptions of Jackson's alleged sex acts, which they say took place at his home, Neverland Ranch, and other locations. The documentary presented an intricate portrayal of what experts call grooming. Jackson groomed families as well as his alleged victims. Both Joy Robson, Wade's mother, and Stephanie Safechuck, James's mom, said Jackson for a time felt like another son to them. He visited both families' homes and hosted them at properties he owned, including Neverland Ranch. His childlike persona and, the documentary implies, the overwhelming nature of his fame helped convince the families that their sons would be safe in his company. Robson says Jackson told him to distrust women. Both men claimed that Jackson tried pushing them away from their families and brainwashing them. Jackson allegedly sent the two men love letters and set up security systems at Neverland to prevent other people from witnessing the abuse. The documentary exploded worldwide. It centered on Robson's and Safechuck's accounts, premiered on HBO in 2 parts in early March, accruing a combined 8.5 million viewers across HBO platforms domestically, and has since been sold to air in 130 territories worldwide. But the backlash was fierce. On February 21, 2019, the Jackson estate sued HBO for breaching a non-disparagement clause from a 1992 contract. The suit sought to compel HBO to participate in a non-confidential arbitration that could result in $100 million or more in damages awarded to the estate. Several celebrities weighed in. American actor Corey Feldman called it one-sided and said Jackson never approached him inappropriately. He later said that his comments weren't meant in any way to question the validity of the victims. That is a complicated position. A man who was himself a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, acknowledging that his experience with Jackson does not negate someone else's experience. But Feldman also told Rolling Stone something that stopped people in their tracks. He told the magazine that his relationship with Jackson was the standard grooming process, that Robson and Safechuck describe everything was similar to what happened to me, up until the sexual part. That sentence deserves to be read again. A man who has publicly defended Jackson for decades acknowledged that the process described by the accusers mirrored what he himself experienced, except, he says, the sexual abuse part never happened to him. Brett Barnes and Macaulay Culkin, whom the documentary suggests replaced Robson and Safechuck when Jackson pushed them out, also denied any inappropriate behavior from Jackson. Culkin has remained consistent since 2005. In a 2020 interview with Esquire, he reiterated his position. "I never saw anything. He never did anything." Jackson biographer Mike Smallcombe argued that Safechuck's claims of sexual abuse at Neverland's train station could not be true because the train station had not been built until 1994. When Safechuck was at least 16, Reed responded that the accusers had misremembered the year the abuse ended, and that Safechuck was present at Neverland before and after the construction of the station. This contradicts Safechuck's claim that his alleged abuse ended in 1992 because he grew too old. Counter-documentaries emerged, films such as Square One, Michael Jackson, Neverland Firsthand, and Michael Jackson Chase the Truth presented information countering the claims suggested by Leaving Neverland. Jackson's album sales actually increased following the documentary screenings. Billboard senior editor Gail Mitchell said she and a colleague interviewed about 30 music executives who believed Jackson's legacy could withstand the controversy. The legal case, however, pressed forward. In 2023, an appellate court overturned earlier dismissals and allowed both cases to move to a jury trial. In their combined lawsuits, Safechuck v. MJJ Productions, heading to trial in November 2026, the men demanded $400 million in damages from the estate. And then the Cascio family stepped forward. For more than 2 decades, the Cascio family were among Michael Jackson's most loyal and vocal defenders. They appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show roughly a year and a half after his death to speak glowingly of the King of Pop. They described themselves as his second family. They insisted he had done nothing wrong. Now, 4 of the 5 siblings say none of that was the truth, and that Jackson himself made sure of it. In a Friday, April 24 interview with the New York Times, siblings Aldo, Eddie, Dominic, and Marie Nicole Cascio detailed what they describe as a years-long campaign by Jackson to groom them as his personal defenders, training them from childhood to protect him from misconduct allegations. While allegedly abusing them at the same time, "We were brainwashed, we were groomed," Eddie Cascio told the Times. He said Jackson, the biggest star in the world, taught him and his siblings to support him whenever the topic of allegations arose. The Cascio family met Jackson through their father, Dominic Sr. Their father managed the Helmsley Palace Hotel in Manhattan, a property where Jackson frequently stayed. The friendship deepened over time, eventually leading to the Cascio children traveling to Jackson's Neverland ranch, and in some cases being permitted to go there alone. The complaint filed in federal court states Michael Jackson was a serial child predator who, over the course of more than a decade, drugged, raped, and sexually assaulted each of the plaintiffs, beginning when some of them were as young as 7 or 8. The abuse allegedly happened at Neverland Ranch, on U.S. and international tours, and even inside the Cascio family's own New Jersey home. While Jackson stayed there with his own children, the lawsuit paints a picture of Jackson giving the siblings drugs and alcohol, and exposing them to child pornography, all to help facilitate the abuse and manipulation. The complaint reads, Jackson insinuated himself into the lives of plaintiffs and their parents, with obsessive attention, lavish gifts, access to his celebrity lifestyle, and declarations that he loved and needed each of them. After the abuse started, he isolated them emotionally, and sometimes physically, from responsible adults and from each other. He plied them with drugs and alcohol. He showed them pornography, including pictures of unclothed children, to normalize the abuse and desensitize them. He made them fear and distrust others by convincing them that not only his life, but also their lives and the lives of their family members would be destroyed if anyone found out what he was doing to them. Frank Cascio, the sole sibling who abstained from joining the lawsuit, citing legal reasons, wrote in his 2011 book My Friend Michael that Jackson had never done anything untoward to him or his siblings. The remaining 4 siblings told The Times that the book, like their Oprah appearance, reflected the grooming rather than the truth. For some siblings, the realization of what had happened came early. For others, it arrived in 2019 when they watched the HBO documentary Leaving Neverland, which detailed 2 other men's allegations that Jackson had sexually abused them as children. According to the lawsuit, watching the documentary effectively deprogrammed the siblings. The Jackson estate responded with fury. Estate attorney Marty Singer said, "This lawsuit is a desperate money grab by additional members of the Cascio family." The family staunchly defended Michael Jackson for more than 25 years, attesting to his innocence of inappropriate conduct. This new court filing is a transparent forum shopping tactic in their scheme to obtain hundreds of millions of dollars from Michael's estate and companies. As reported by the New York Times, the Cascios previously approached the Jackson estate with the allegations years ago. The family and the estate struck a secret agreement, whereby the family would be paid around $16 million over the course of 5 years. When the payments halted in 2025, another round of negotiations fell apart, and now a lawsuit has been filed. The Jackson estate noted that the Cascio family had made what it termed an extortion demand of $213 million the previous summer. The timing is impossible to ignore. The same weekend, the lawsuit dominates headlines. The Michael Jackson biopic Michael, starring Jafar Jackson, is posting massive box office numbers. Thursday previews alone reached $12.6 million, with strong audience scores. The biopic just shattered the opening weekend box office record for biopics, grossing $97 million in the US. And it is a film that notably stops its story in 1988, before any of the allegations ever surfaced. Michael Jackson's child sexual abuse allegations were not featured in the late King of Pop's biopic. Director Antoine Fuqua has revealed why. The allegations were scrapped from the biopic amid legal concerns. An original cut of Michael covered the scandal in the 3rd act. It was removed after producers reportedly found a clause in the settlement the Chandlers reached with the Jackson estate that banned dramatization of the family's story. Even Jackson's own daughter distanced herself from the film. Paris Jackson expressed that while she thinks that the general public will enjoy the film, it's not something she can get behind. A big reason why I haven't said anything up until this point is because I know a lot of you guys are going to be happy with it, she says. The film panders to a very specific section of my dad's fandom that still lives in the fantasy. She accused the film of containing a lot of inaccuracy and just full-blown lies. So here we are, the most famous entertainer in human history, 17 years dead, and the accusations are not fading. They are multiplying. On one side, a $400 million trial set for November 2026 from Wade Robson and James Safechuck, a federal lawsuit from the Cascio siblings calling Jackson a serial child predator. a Leaving Neverland director planning a third installment to document the forthcoming trial. On the other side, an acquittal on all counts in 2005, and FBI files released in 2009 that revealed no evidence of criminal conduct. Macaulay Culkin's unwavering position that "I never saw anything, he never did anything." Multiple grand juries that heard no damaging evidence against Jackson, and a state that has called every accusation since Jackson's death a money grab, by people who defended him for decades. Leaving Neverland director Dan Reed told The Hollywood Reporter that the film's massive success at the box office shows that people don't care, and also pointed to photos from the Epstein files released in December 2025 that show Jackson pictured alongside Jeffrey Epstein, Diana Ross, and Bill Clinton. But there are substantial problems with some of the accusations that cannot be ignored. Wade Robson stated under oath in 2005 that no sexual behavior occurred between him and Jackson. Following Jackson's death in 2009, Robson became known for his dance tributes to the King of Pop. Soon after, however, Robson reversed his position. This reversal happened only after Robson's career experienced a downturn. Robson and Safechuck claim that Jackson didn't want his alleged victims to know of each other, and made sure they were never in the same place at the same time. However, evidence shows that the two did meet as children, and there are dozens of pictures and videos proving that children who visited Neverland knew of each other and spent time together. And the Cascio family case carries its own contradictions. Jackson estate attorney Singer pointed out, the family staunchly defended Michael Jackson for more than 25 years, attesting to his innocence of inappropriate conduct. Statements by the Cascios, including those appearing in dozens of passages throughout Frank Cascio's 2011 book, as well as in interviews with Oprah Winfrey and others, directly contradict what is being alleged now. The family had already received approximately $16 million through a secret settlement, and the new lawsuit was filed only after those payments stopped in 2025. Supporters of the accusers argue the opposite, that delayed disclosures are a hallmark of grooming and child sexual abuse. They say that delayed disclosures are common in grooming and abuse cases, and that the biopic's release has nothing to do with their courage to finally speak publicly. As Time magazine wrote, Michael Jackson's persistent dominance reveals something about us. We're drawn to complexity until it gets too uncomfortable and asks us to sit with it. The truth is that we are left with a story that has no clean ending. A man who was never convicted of any crime, who was acquitted by a jury of his peers, who was investigated by the FBI, and against whom no physical evidence was found. That same man now faces posthumous allegations from people who spent their lives defending him. Some of those people received millions of dollars before going public. What is clear is that the debate over Michael Jackson's legacy is far from settled. A biopic that breaks box office records by ending the story before the controversies begin. A trial set for November that could cost his estate hundreds of millions of dollars. A new generation of accusers, and a generation of defenders who have held the same line for over 30 years. Celebrities have spoken, some in courtrooms, some on TV, some through lawsuits. What they have revealed is not a single truth about Michael Jackson. It is multiple truths, running in opposite directions with no sign of resolution. The jury, the real one, convenes in November 2026. The rest of us will have to decide for ourselves what we believe.